of sea and sand. Now break down the acronym like you in class. Oh, they're selling the whole country. Ooh, they're selling And I never been down with no OPP. I talk about selling our people's property. Don't know who doing it, so don't row me out. Don't send no police round me and tell me shush my mouth. Where's our conviction? But where's our pride? We selling everything, selling our backside. Just go online, it'll make you sick. You can buy any island, just point and click. See, they're selling our country, yes, they're selling our land. They're selling our archipelago of sea and sand. Now break down the acronym like you in class. Oh, they're selling the whole country. Ooh, they're selling Hey, hey. Ride him. My mother always say when you find a donkey, ride it. Who's donkey? Man, come on. We got a whole nation in 73. Now we getting back the whole country. What kind of fools we must be, selling out for a bag of rice and a cup of tea. You know what does bug me? Help me understand. I can't find piece of property for under 80 grand. But I can fix this, I know what to do. I can squat just like them other people try make me do. See, they're selling our country, yes, they're selling our land. They're selling our archipelago of sea and sand. Now break down the acronym like you in class. Oh, they're selling the whole country. Ooh, they're selling They're selling our country. Ooh, they're selling our land. They're selling our archipelago of sea and sand. Now break down the acronym like you in class. Oh, they're selling the whole country. Ooh, they're selling I get everybody sell some every day. They're selling one island, we and they will keep. What can be left for you and me? Is this the example? What's our kids to do? You want them have a sense of pride, or go selling too? Cause they're selling our country, yes, they're selling our land. They're selling our archipelago of sea and sand. Now break down the acronym like you in class. Oh, they're selling the whole country. Ooh, they're selling They're selling our country, yes, they're selling our land. They're selling our archipelago of sea and sand. Now break down the acronym like you in class. Oh, they're selling the whole country. Ooh, they're selling They're selling our country, yes man. They're selling our land. They're selling our archipelago of sea and sand. Now break down the acronym like you in class. Oh, they're selling the whole country. Ooh, they're selling They're selling our country, yes, they're selling our land. They're selling our archipelago of sea and sand. Now break down the acronym like you in class. Oh, they're selling the whole country. Ooh, they're selling
Whoa, girls, we out doing
My name is Joseph John Lyle Catlin Darville. So I've done many things in my life, and presently I'm totally involved in the preservation of our glorious, beautiful environment, archipelagic nation of the Bahamas, which is the most beautiful spot on planet Earth, and that of course accounts for the majestic, marvelous, and moving ocean of waters that we have. My first experience was when a crazy cousin of mine picked me up from a cliff that was about 30 feet high, and he dumped me in the ocean. And I thought I was gone. I thought, sure, I would drown. But I learned how to swim from about 30 feet out to the cliff and was able to climb on the cliff. And then, we had all of these experiences which taught me how we need to respect the incredible ocean, which is actually the breathing apparatus of Mother Earth and also the source of our oxygen as well. We in the Bahamas, along with probably only two other nations, are the most severely subjected to the effects of climate change, sea level rise. The Bahamas being number one. So to around with anything that's going to create any sort of hazardous impact upon our ocean, because we need our ocean to be the reservoir, the source of our sustenance for many years to come. We have to make it obligatory for every single child at primary level to know how to swim. Secondly, we have to begin to teach our older teens how to dive, how to fish, how to farm, how to build boats. We need to be mindful that what we have is this glorious ocean of 100,000 square miles and only 6,200 square miles of land. And by the end of the century, they say we're going to lose quite a bit of that land. And therefore, we will have more ocean and hopefully more fish. But marine life, but we will not have that marine life if we do anything that's going to tamper with and destroy the majestic cleanliness and beauty of Mother Earth's blood force, the ocean, our source of oxygen, and so many other things that Mother Earth gives to us via the ocean. I feel absolutely privileged to be here at Olmsted and hearing the sound of that ocean, her majesty, her marvelous motion. She touches every island, every continent, every nation on the planet. I have enjoyed her. I've eaten from her. I've dived in her. She scared the daylights out of me many times, but I still love her to death. What more can we ask for? I mean, here I stand, old Joe Darville, looking out at the ocean, hearing her, and I am the happiest bug on the planet.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for being here, and welcome. This is another Sunday. This is the continuation of our Vision series. This is episode 2 of our Vision series. This is a series where we want to talk about the future of the Bahamas, about the Bahamas the way it is and the way it should be. I've learned something very powerful, and they said that we have a responsibility to do things. Artists have a responsibility to do two things, and one is to show the world the way it is, and then to show the world the way it should be. And so we're going to take up the cause of artists, and we're going to do what they do. We're going to show the world the way it is and show the world the way it should be. A lot of politicians are trying to distract us right now by having conversations about each other, about having conversations about personalities, and instead of talking about what's really going on in the country and talking about solutions for the future, they're busy throwing attacks at each other. I'm not interested in that. We have a country to save, and it's only one country that we have, and the country is on the brink, and it is on life support in every way you can think of. I cannot personally think of any way that the country is operating as should, and based on that, someone has to do something. So that is what this series is about. Let's end the conversations of attacks, et cetera, and let's start to have a different kind of conversation. So, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I want to thank all of you who supported our South and Soup last week. Listen to me, everything was fabulous. Everything tasted good. It was something else. I want to thank all those youths who came out to our youth event. Thank you so much. It was powerful, and it will continue to be. I also want to remind you that we will be having our convention coming up very soon, and our convention is going to be on April 13th. April 13th is the date for our convention, and we're looking forward to it. And that's when the party is going to officially be launched. So on April 13th, we're going to officially launch our organization. Yeah, we're young. We've only been around for a short period of time, although it seems like we've done so much and we've had such an impact in a short period of time, but we're just getting started. And so on April 13th is when we're going to officially get this thing started. We're going to have our elections, vote for our leader, deputy leader, chairman, and all other positions. And so if you're a supporter and you're a delegate, make sure you're paid up so you can participate. And we're looking for all of you to come that night. It's going to be at the Marriott Courtyard Hotel on West Bay Street. So we're looking for you to come out that evening and support us, hear from us, hear about the new Bahamas that everyone is now talking about. All right. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I have a very special guest in studio today. We're going to be talking to, over the next couple of months, we're going to be talking to a lot of Bahamians. And some of them we agree with, some of them we disagree with. We're going to have conversations with them because there's no way to improve yourselves without really having conversations. And we're looking forward to having shared ideologies, but also looking for persons to help us to adjust our plans and our goals so that we can get the best out of what we plan for this country. And we have no problem with doing that. Today's guest has been around for a very long time. You saw in the video, he said that he's almost 80 years old. Now he's 82 years old. And he's been around a lot. He's a very respected environmentalist and educator. He started educating people back in 1977, which happened to be the first year that he told everyone that everyone should benefit from an acre of crown land in this country. And that's from 1977. He was saying that. All right. So I have to give him the props. I didn't start that conversation, but I'm gonna finish it. And I'm gonna take that baton and we're gonna take this to the next level. He's been fighting for the environment. He fought that Bahamas Petroleum Company, which was an absolute farce, that wanted to come here and drill for oil and sell it out of the back of the ship. They had no plans to do anything serious with that company. But he helped to fight that. They actually sued the government to stop it. And in the middle of the lawsuit, they decided that they're going to pack up and go. I actually believe it was because they didn't want things to come out in the lawsuit. And I think that's why they packed up and broke off running. But in any event, they were challenged, and that's who he is. He works a lot with, he was the executive chairman of Save the Bays. And so he's been fighting for our environment for a very long time. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Mr. Joseph John Lyle Catherine Darville. Welcome.
Lincoln, it's great to be here.
Awesome, man.
I am so happy when we could speak so openly to our Bahama land.
Yes.
And no one is going to interrupt us.
Yes.
I have been neutral political wise all my life.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, in fact, both the FNM and the PLP have sought me in the past to be a member of, or to run for the party.
Mhm.
And I said no every single time because I wanted to be totally objective.
Wow.
And over the many years, I have voted back and forth, sometimes for the FNM, sometimes for the PLP, depending on the quality of the representative from my area
Wow.
in Nassau, where I was until I went to Grand Bahama in 1977.
Mhm.
And so that's something I stand on. So I don't want anyone to get out of the impression now that I am in with Lincoln
Yes.
because I'm here today. I mean, if he brings something great, etc., to Grand Bahama, I may go in that direction to vote.
Yeah.
Because something we have to be careful about obliterating the past,
Mhm.
because if you mess up in the past, it's going to haunt you in the future.
Yeah.
And someone just said recently, "Oh, that's in the past now." It's
Mhm.
not in the past.
Mhm.
In fact, there's an illusion between past, present, and future.
Yeah.
It is one evolving phenomenon
Yes.
in God's creation.
Mhm.
And so we have to get rid of that idea
Mhm.
that, hey, something I said 10 years ago is gone. It's
Mhm.
not. It is present here energetically.
Mhm.
And that actually haunts a lot of what happens in our nation right now.
Mhm.
And if you take, for example, what is happening to our real estate, and I'm
Mhm.
talking about the 300,000, the 1,000 square miles of ocean and
Yes.
66,200 square miles of land.
Mhm.
What we have done to that, particularly the land-wise, is reprehensible. It is wrong.
Wow.
It is sinful. And I say that loudly and clearly because we have sold for a pittance what belongs to the people. It doesn't belong to Bahamians anymore. Every beautiful spot in the Bahamas, whether you go from New Providence to Exuma,
Mhm.
or you go from Exuma on to Long Island,
Mhm.
all of those keys in there, all of them are sold to foreign entities. Nothing has been given to the ordinary Bahamians, and I'm going to get back to that hopefully, to say we're creating the monster right now in that regard with the violence and the killing in this country.
Mm.
Because people do not feel that they own anything.
Yeah.
If you own something, then you would not go out and try to take it away from somebody else.
Yeah.
And I know how that's. I'm going to come. I might be all over the world here tonight, but the fact is, let me go back to a little story from Long Island.
Go ahead.
I grew up in Pettis, Dedmondsky.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if a young man from Pettis wanted to marry a young girl from Mango Bush, the settlement about a quarter mile from that.
Mm-hmm.
He would go and he would present himself to the father of the girl.
Mm-hmm.
And the first question the father would ask, "Do you own land?" And if he said, "No, I don't own any land," well, you go back, and when you have land, then you come back.
Wow.
So if the young man says, "Yes, I own land," the second question was, "Do you own a home at Bell Course?" And if he said no, he said, "Go back, and when you have a home up the Bell Course, then you could come back." If he had both land and a house of the Bell Course, then the young lady was called along with the mother from the next room or outside, and then he was able to hand over the hand for an engagement to the girl. That's how important land is in the family islands. You are not considered a man unless you own something.
Wow.
And then we wonder why there's so much violence and killing. You know something? When I left Long Island at the age of 14, and I give God Almighty the blessing that my mother took me there when I was 9 months old,
Mm-hmm.
because my father was a training pilot from West Africa in the Royal Air Force with another English pilot, and they both were killed at Oaks Field,
Mm-hmm.
the old airport. And my mother couldn't take care of me, so she shut me off. She took me to Long Island. I grew up with my grandparents, so they're like my mom and daddy. And they had 10 children. I grew up with the last 4. And so when at age 14, that was the end of school. That was school leaving certificate.
Wow.
Then you either stayed on the island to work or you traveled to Nassau to find a job.
Mm-hmm.
So my future was to get on a sailboat along with 3 other sailors, like one like a Haitian suit,
Mm-hmm.
with fruits and goats and sheep and all of that. I share this because it's really kind of funny.
Yeah.
So it took us 9 days to get from Long Island to New Providence.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it normally would take like 2.5 days.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was when it wasn't blowing gale like hurricane, and we couldn't sail, we had to pull into a lee of a key. And then next thing it was calm and we couldn't sail. So back in those days, I used to pray a lot. So the guy said to me, the 3 sailors, because I was a young one, they're 14 years old, he said, "Boy, Lyle, we're going to throw you overboard because you're like Jonas. We're going to throw you and maybe a shark would eat you." And I took them seriously, so I had to go down the hole and split all the rotten bananas and all that stuff down in the hole of the ship. So they didn't pull me out of the hole again, but finally pull into a key in the Exuma Keys, and we found jumbe for the ghosts because the ghosts were trying to eat the clothes off you.
Mm-hmm.
We found jumbe and we found water. We ran out of water and food. Everything down in the hole was rotten. 9 days in there. And then when I sailed into, it was not the old place where the boats used to come in, not now, but they come in Port Steep. It was downtown, some in the shipyard or something like that. And I saw this light. And I asked the I said, what kind of light is that? I said, he's shivering like a lamp. He said, boy, that's electric light. That's the first time I saw electricity.
Wow.
When I was 14 years old.
Wow.
6 weeks after I came to New Providence, at age 14, one man killed another man. And to this day, I cannot yet believe that a human being could kill another human being.
Wow.
You see where we have gone?
Mm-hmm.
From my age of 14, now I'm 82, that's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is, we should have the consciousness and the awareness in order to raise our young people so that they do not become violent.
Yes.
And one of the main things that are happening in the homes today, too many fathers are not there.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of young men don't own anything. We're getting right back to ownership.
Mm-hmm.
If you own nothing in your country, you're either going to steal to get it or you're going to kill to get it.
We're going to talk about all that. We're going to actually break that down for persons because that's very important, especially if you're an environmentalist. You know, what is it that you're fighting for? I'm also an environmentalist. I'm a different kind of environmentalist from you, but I'll get to what kind of environmentalist I am. You fight for the environment, and so do I, but in a different way. So we're going to have this conversation. I wanted to start, though, with the actual fight that you've been fighting for some time. And I'm going to play a clip for everybody so that they can get kind of an idea of what's been going on, especially in the island of Grand Bahama, where you're from. Because I'm getting so much calls and complaints about Grand Bahama, buyer's remorse, and, you know, people are still suffering down there after all the party is over. But I want to talk about the environment. I want us to start with Grand Bahama, and then we'll get back to some more things. So, ladies and gentlemen, watch this.
Environmentalist Joe Darville calling for more to be done to protect Grand Bahama's environment after a cargo ship carrying invasive beetles that destroy crops docked on the island last week, and the deaths of 3 men believed to be the result of fume inhalation. He says lives and livelihoods are at stake.
I think at this particular point in time, immediately after the death of 3 men here in Freeport, this is a critical issue. And how many signs do we have to be given to say to us here in Grand Bahama, at the Grand Bahama Port Authority, and to the government agencies, we have to be more careful about how we handle people and poisonous materials, etc. And, I have a tremendous amount of experience having worked in the industrial area, in school as a teacher for so many years. And at this date, one class of mine in one class, 12 had predeceased me, and 10 of them have died of cancer related to industrial pollution.
The Menace administration passed an Environmental Protection Act in 2019 that would hold businesses and organizations accountable for activities that damage the environment. However, Darville says there is much more that can be done, particularly on Grand Bahama.
We have to create a whole panorama of instruction for both industries and individuals who are going to realize that, our people have to be treated with the same respect as we would be treated elsewhere or as people in foreign countries are treated. So those are the things we have to look at it in a whole umbrella comprehensively to make sure that our environment, which includes our people, our animals, our plants, everything is treated with due respect.
Yeah, my dad kidney failure?
Yeah.
Let's go while we think kidney failure, because she was living in Pittness Point. My God. And so,
So a lot of accounts. We have a lot of. I mean.
Oh, you say your daddy died from cancer too?
Yeah, dad died from cancer. My Grammy.
Your Grammy?
My grandfather.
Your grandfather?
All of them died from cancer.
A whole generation died from cancer? And where they was living?
Fitness Point.
Fitness Point?
And the thing about it, the majority of the family members, they have upper respiratory problems.
They have upper respiratory problem? Brave, you hear us? Send this message to Brave Davis.
Because it's constantly, every month, we have strong, oily odor.
Oily odor?
Over there.
Mr. Prime Minister.
So what you think? What you want the Prime Minister to do?
What you want the Prime Minister to do?
Us. We don't want to talk about nothing else.
We don't want to talk about no negotiate, just move us.
Yes, we want to move from here.
I
mean, that's what happened in the past. That was a different generation.
Tell them again.
Tell them what you say.
The past. That was a
Different generation. They don't want to hear that but the past. But go see all these homes right there. Mr. Prime Minister.
in the back there.
So what you saying that is, ma'am?
That's
A cyst from what?
From what?
I don't know.
No? How
Mother
long?
had it too.
I know. How long were you living in, what area this is? Fitness Point?
All my life.
How old are you?
33.
What school you went to?
Louisiana.
Louisiana, the same school where they closed down.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you go to Hawksville I too?
No, mom.
What school you gonna do?
I went to the beacon.
Okay, so how long was this here on your stomach?
Like 6 years now.
5 or 6 years. So what the doctor saying is wrong? What the doctor saying you
The doctor told me it was a cyst,
Uh-huh.
and that's what I ended up getting with, a cyst.
Wow.
So that's cancerous or it's not cancerous?
They not cancerous.
And they will tell you exactly how this happened.
Nope.
You was always like, your stomach was always big, so?
Mom.
All right. Do you have any pain or discomfort?
Yeah, only like around this area,
They can't cut that cyst out?
No.
And what they say?
They may have to go Nassau for
Let
it to
Boko
do it.
pay for that right away.
My fellow Bahamians, you see what's going on?
Boko got to pay for that.
Boko and Syntax can pay for the surgery. Y'all look at
Group breast.
your brother grew breast?
He had to get surgery. Brother ended up doing breast.
And he had to get surgery?
That's the
You serious? You sure? Where your brother is?
In Bedmini right now.
You see what's going on? They had to break off running. This is what's Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Philip Brave Davis, Aram Lewis, Dr. Darville, you all need to come and Grand Bahama forthwith. Ginger Moxie also.
Wow. Wow.
That's a sad and tragic period of time.
That's Grand Bahama where you now live. You know, when people talk about the environment, they always talk, you know, about saving the turtles and the fishes and that kind of stuff. But I am more concerned about people. I am concerned about the turtles, the fish, the coral, et cetera, but they're all here for us, and I'm very concerned about the people. And I think people are more neglected in this Bahamas than anything else. You get locked up faster for hurting a dog than you get for hurting a person. And this has been going on in Grand Bahama, and no one is talking about it.
No, since we got the schools out of that area, it's become silent and quiet, and so the death has continued silently. Can I give you a little history about this? Because this is important for the whole country to know. When I was principal of Catholic High before we relocated, we were in Hawksville, and then we had all of the industrial plants around it. Boco was refining.
So you were there amongst this, your school?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I have a condition now directly related to it.
What?
Yeah. And so there was Boco, and they were refining oil. There was the Grand Bahama Power Company. There was Syntex, and then there was another chemical company. And Syntex was the most severe offending company. And I would get up in the morning as principal. I would go to Catholic High, open up the doors and windows in order to get the stench out, put the fans on to get the stench out of there. And it's a long story. I demonstrated, Fred Smith and myself demonstrated in front of the companies for them to do something about it or to relocate the schools out. There was the primary school, there was the high school, and there was Catholic High. So there were 4 schools in that area altogether. And I mean, it was suffering. Anytime, like during the winter, particular when the wind was coming from the northwest, it was putrid. I mean, you could hardly breathe.
Wow.
Two of my teachers had left because they couldn't take it. One day, and this is important for me to tell, one day I got a call from the primary school, Oxford Primary, which is right across from Hawksville High School, and they were just about eighth of a mile from Catholic High. The principal says to me, Mr. D, can you come over, please? She said, I got 35 kids in my office who can't breathe, and I don't know what to do. I said to her, I said, call the RAN and tell them to send the ambulances right away. They did. Back in those days, the RAN had 5 of the ambulances.
Wow.
They came and they took the kids down there. I said, call all of the industrial companies, call the Grand Mama Port Authority. Sooner than later, all of them were over there, including Edward St. George and Lady Henrietta. So Henry St. George and I got into a really verbal battle, almost coming to fist fights.
Wow.
Because he was saying that I was instigating the whole situation. And then finally, Henrietta came in between the two of us, and she looked straight into Edward's eyes. She said, Edward, shut up. She said, if you don't believe what Joe Darville is saying, why don't you go to the hospital and check on those kids who were taken there? In the evening, I got a call from Edward. I said, Joe, this is Edward, and I am directed by Henny to call you and apologize for my behavior. Because when I went to the hospital and found 25 of those students still on ventilators, I knew what you're talking about.
Wow.
The next day, he called me to his office, and he said, I have land in Freeport. You could relocate Catholic High. I said, I'm not going to be satisfied until all of the schools have moved out of that area. And people don't know that it is my instigation that not only Catholic High, but Hawksville High, Hawksville Primary were moved out of that area, because I told them that I will not rest on my laurels until all of our children were out of that area. One of the cases, one class of mine, I'm not going to say the class, but 12 of the students predeceased me. And they died of cancer related to pollution. One of the students, and this story got to be told, one of the students' mom, she was in the hospital in Florida. She had 5 doctors attending her. The 2 days before she died, her mom called me and she said, Mr. to this day. I cannot fight for the people anymore.
Can you repeat that? I don't think they heard the last thing you said
about
what happened with the industrial pollution. What happened with the kid?
With the girl?
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
just the last piece.
She had a table there with the reports from 5 physicians in the United States from a Cleveland clinic, and they all attesting to the fact that she was dying terminally due to industrial pollution.
Wow.
And that's something that has been horrifying. And still
Lord.
To this day, I'm not there any longer. You know, I got my school out of there in 1988, and all of the schools were removed from there. And I sat with Edward St. George couple months before he died, and I congratulated him. And he said to me, he said, Joe, if you didn't instigate, those public schools would still be there.
Wow. And you said you had some effect from it.
Oh yeah. In 2010, I came down with
what?
So I went. By the time I was working at the shipyard. So I went over to Cleveland Clinic. So when they took the nurse took a specimen of the urine, and then she came back and she didn't even give it to the doctor. She just said out loud, Mr. Dowell's urine is filled with blood. So they sent right away in the thing, and they had to remove a tumor from my bladder.
Wow.
So I'm attesting to this. So when the 2 physicians came back after the operation took place, you know what they asked me? They said, did you smoke all your life? And I said, no, I've never smoked. They said, did you work at an industrial plant? And I said, I didn't work at one, but I worked near there. They said, because the cancer we removed is only cancer due to a lifetime of smoking or industrial pollution.
Wow.
And that was 2010. I'm still alive now. God only knows why.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah, and there's an epidemic of cancer going on in Grand Bahama,
Yeah.
and no one is dealing with it,
Yeah.
and they don't have a proper hospital.
You know, I give, and that was the same year. You know, I vote, like I told you, I vote either FNM or PLP depending who's in my area and the best one. Back in those days, Dr. Bethel, Marcus Bethel, was in running for my constituency. He was PLP, of course, and I voted for him because he was the one who got a lot of testing done and verified the number of diseases that were kind of respiratory diseases related to pollution in that area.
Wow. And there are also, we also had an issue with the oil spill during Dorian. And it's devastating. And as far as what I can see, and persons are seeing the pictures on the screen on their screen right now, but as far as I can see, there is still that issue that has not been cleaned up yet.
No, it has not been cleaned up. And they would initially, because I was there from day one, because that's my sacred environment. I love Mother Earth and what she gives to us, and no one is allowed to pollute it and just go away.
Wow.
So from the very day after the thing took, when we couldn't even pass that road because there were 3 feet of oil sitting on the main road coming from the plant, continue on to the eastern part of Grand Bahama. So they brought in all this equipment, et cetera, et cetera. They had no contingency plan whatsoever for oil spill. They had to wait for days before they could commandeer enough from Florida to bring in. And when they got those people in there, one of the guys was very forthright with me, and he was the one who took me through and showed me exactly what was happening, because they know that I was not going to stand for any foolishness coming from the owners locally. And he verified a lot that I was saying. Though that oil spill happened when the wind was coming from the south. In other words, it came over the plant and went into the north. And it settled in the pine forest. That was 140 knot winds, because the same day, you see how the providential happens? The day after that spill, I ran into a worker who worked at that company. And he said to me, Mr. D, he said, you got to know this. He said, when those guys came down from Equinor to put on the hoods on those tanks, he told them that it could withstand 140 knot wind. So he said, well, what if it's 145? He said, oh, we know what we're doing. We're the experts in this regard. So when I met this one guy from Florida who came to deal with the oil spill cleanup, I asked him those questions. I said, what wind do you think happened to take those caps off? He said 140 knot wind. Now, luckily, end quotes, it happened then. Because if it had happened when the wind came from the north, which was 160-mile winds, it would have all gone into our beautiful ocean. Fortunately or unfortunately, when we look at it, it went into the pine forest, which made it less disastrous. And so they did some rapid trying to clean up. But then I got my friends and all the guys who were working there, and they said, Mr. D, they're telling us to cut corners, all this. They cleaned up very fastidious, the frontal part of it. But when they got in the pine forest, exactly, all over the aggregate of the company that had the aggregate, there's some like 60 feet high and 125 feet wide and so on. The whole thing was completely covered black with oil and all of his machinery, etc. And so I kept telling the powers that be that the thing isn't cleaned up. But they were taking the word of the company that it was. And I would go there from time to time when the news media would call me and say, Mr. D, could you accompany us and show us what you're talking about? I said, see here, right here? Look, take this stick, poke it into that aggregate mound. And they do it, and they pulled out, and it's saturated with oil up to 3-4 inches.
What?
Another sign. The pigs were dying because they didn't have anything to eat. The pigs, they eat what we call the bracken fern roots,
right?
Because they look like potatoes. They were digging them up because it was the only thing that was coming back quickly, the fern. And they were leaving them there. I said, well, that's strange because they eat them like they eat potatoes. So I would take one and show it to the media as well, break it open, saturated oil all the way through. So not even the pigs were eating what they normally ate, the bracken fern roots, which are like potatoes.
Wow. And it's like there's no one to fight for Bahamians. I mean, in government. I mean, it's like if it's happening to the Bahamians, nothing matters. Now, if something happens to the tourists or, someone in the upper echelons, then we can look into something. There's all kind of things happening. We're importing export-only foods. We have chemtrails. Every day we're seeing these chemtrails overhead. Then all of a sudden, as soon as you start seeing these chemtrails, you start seeing a lot of people getting sick. I mean, there's this strange cough going on now. So like the end of last year, beginning of this year, people started to see all these chemtrails and they were taking videos of them. Now, all of January, people were coughing and getting sick bad. And I was one of them.
Oh, now, chemtrails. Mm-hmm. You got to look closer than that. Mm-hmm. You got to look at what's coming out of those stacks of the cruise ships.
Yeah.
They should not be allowed to run their stacks, fuming stuff out when they're in port. Mm-hmm. They should be obliged to use shore power because one of those cruise ships pours into the atmosphere on a yearly basis more than 2 million vehicles.
Yes, and all of those ships have signed on to where they're going to start using using the power from the port. We haven't done it here in the Bahamas. We're always kind of behind. But that is a rule that's put in place. And they have to do it by a certain time. Otherwise, they're going to get a lot of penalties. They can't get insurance and a lot of things they've put in place.
Exactly. Can you imagine how the cost of electricity would go down for ordinary people in Nassau if these cruise ships were obliged to pay for the power that they use when they're in port? Because then BTC would have a multitude of fortune to operate with.
That is so true. We have to defend our people in terms of the health of our people. We need a government that's going to look out for our people. But it seems like as long as there's some big company where money is being made or some favors could be done for politicians, no one cares. And I want to say to Equinox, they are pushing their environmental cause all over the world. They're now, Norway is now saying that they're not investing anymore because Equinox is a Norway company. They're not investing in anything that affects the environment anymore, including oil and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And so how could they be preaching this message all over the world, but here in the Bahamas, they had this catastrophe that people are suffering from, our environment is suffering from. All right, we had 3 birds and a goat that we lost in all of that, according to the previous government. All of this going on, and they're doing nothing.
Well, let me tell you, you're talking about the birds and the goats. My friend Romy, I mean, he should put a what do you call it? A thing on that. But nobody actually uses it. But copyrighted. The fact is, right now, today. And, I'm friends with a lot of people who are bird watchers galore. And I go sometimes with them as well. Mm-hmm. And we did an excursion in that whole area opposite Equinor just a few months ago. Mm-hmm. And you walk through that area, even with the human sensitivity of smell, which is not very high, you can still detect the oil residue in the air. And of course, you see it in the wetlands when it rains, it comes up and it kind of settles on the top of the water. The sheen of oil is still there. And one of the things that we did specifically was to check for the birds in that area. And this was like, just early last year, you couldn't find one bird. Birds are extremely sensitive to pollution. And they can easily pick up. Birds are amazing, even like bees. I mean, they could find a flower 10 miles away, that they could go and get sap out of, just like the bees. But the birds are not there. No birds are there yet, and that used to be a plethora of birds in that area prior to the invasion of the oil in that area. And the fact is that we don't know to this day yet what Equinor paid the Bahamas government for the pollution of our environment.
Wow.
Why is that?
Wow.
I want to know, because I was there and I was breathing in the filth myself, trying to encourage the people to clean it up, to clean it properly.
That's because they probably paid nothing. I want to segue to talk about an initiative that you guys had, I think as early as this week, where you planted another 2,000 mangrove trees.
Well, it was actually 1,500.
1,500, okay.
1,500, but that's only a little portion of what we've done over the last year and a half.
Wow.
We have now planted over 40,000 propagules, young mangroves in the Dover Sound area, because remember, during Dorian, almost 62,000 acres of prime mangroves were destroyed, and also similarly the same in Abaco. And a lot of people say, well, Uncle Joe, how come the mangroves grow in the saltwater? How come they die? Well, that's what we have to learn. We got to teach the parliamentarians about this too, because they don't know about the environment. Very little do they know about the environment. I took some around in Abaco, both PLP and F&M, last year, and took them into the whole mound of all the stuff being shipped out. They had no idea that existed.
Wow.
The multitude of different grades of aggregate that go out of this country from Grand Bahama, and I never see it on the line of our budget at all.
Wow.
How much we are getting for all of the aggregate going out of the country. So anyway, where was I talking about?
When we talking about the mangroves.
Oh, the mangroves,
Yeah.
the mangroves, yeah. So we decided that we got a grant to do the mangrove restoration.
Nice.
And we started out, we didn't even know how we were going to do it. But fortunately, there are people, experts on the other side of the world. We were able to bring them in, and they taught us how to do it. And now we have a huge nursery for our own mangroves in Grand Bahama next to the coral.
Wow, and you got a grant for this?
Huh?
And you got a
grant for that.
Awesome.
And so now we've collected, we have, there's such a marvelous thing. I brought a book in to give to you, because it's called mangrove.
People are wondering why I'm looking to the side as I'm talking. So that's because we're sitting in the same room, and it's kind of creepy for me to be looking straight when he's sitting right there. Yeah. So this is the book that he's talking about.
So we right now, I think we've had well over 2,000 people who've been initiated going into the mud. And this is what I have to tell the nation, that we need our parliamentarians to get their backsides down there in the mangroves, because they're talking about carbon credits, and they don't even know where it comes from. Wow. We have been in the mud up to our belly. We can literally have to crawl out sometimes to get into the area where we're planting those mangroves, because that's how much sequestration these mangroves have done. So when they say, Uncle Joe, well, why did they die? The thing is that mangroves need fresh water and oxygen. So they're the first reverse osmosis system on the planet. Long before the humans thought about it, the mangroves already doing it.
Yes.
So they take oxygen and fresh water from the salt water, and they bring it up through the prop roots, which is long like that, standing, where the fish go. That's the first nursery for all the fish that we eat.
Yes.
So they go all the way up through the roots and up into the branches and out in the leaves. You take a red mangrove, you lick it, it's covered with salt. So that's where they get rid of the salt as they take up oxygen and fresh water from the ocean. But Dorian sat on those buggers for 48 hours. Yeah. So they literally smothered.
Yeah.
Thousands of acres in Grand Bahama and Abaco. And so
I've seen it.
We have this massive restoration taking place, and you should see them. Oh my God. We go out there now, and not only the ones that we're planting, the propagules or the young mangroves, but also they're floating in, the propagules, because they're incredible. I mean, I don't know. I take them every time like this, and I kiss them.
Wow.
Because they come out with a little flower, and then they form a little cocoon, like a little womb, and then the little things start to stick out, which is the baby, and then it continues to grow. It could go up to like 18 inches long, called the propagule. And at the end of the propagule, there's a little sharp point. And when they're ripe, let's say in June, July, August, they drop. And unless they get covered in the roots of the mangroves, they could float. They could float for up to a year until they find the right environment. And then that little dark part at the end takes in water, and it goes down into the mud. and then it starts to form roots. And then after roots are established, then two little leaves come out. It is one of the most marvelous creations of, of the Creator.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
I noticed you had a lot of kids with you, so everyone can see the pictures of the kids in orange.
Man, oh Lord, we have adults, old people, young kids. Some was younger, 7 years old. They go out and they could in the mud up to their waist, and they don't mind. I mean, I just love this whole phenomenon because we're getting so many of our young people to go into, and you know, you got to be careful too, because one day I almost passed out. We had, mangroves can grow into freshwater as well, and there's a section in Grand Bahama where they used to be on the coastal area, but then they developed stuff between the mangroves and the ocean. But in that area, it's all freshwater. And when we went down in there one day, I almost passed out because the smell from the carbon, like sulfur.
What?
Yeah, you could see it. It's dark. Once you go down like a foot into it, it is dark color. And that's where those mangroves are so important. They take in all of this carbon,
the pollution,
and they bring it down and they sequester it in the mud. And that mud can go up to 20 feet deep in some places. That's where politicians got to get their backsides and go and see where this stuff comes from, rather than talking about carbon credits and all this stuff. And then we have in Grand Bahama too, amazing panorama of seagrass.
But before you go there, I just want to let you know that I want to make a trip down there and come and experience what you're talking about myself. Please. But you brought up something very interesting, the carbon credits. You can actually make a lot, you can make income from carbon credits, from planting these mangroves, if our country would actually initiate this by the restoration of our mangroves, of our forests and abaco, et cetera, there's carbon credits to be earned from that. And I don't want to talk about carbon credits for a minute because, I've been preaching about this before the last election. So now a lot of people have joined me in this conversation about carbon credits. And they want to know, what can you do with it? Some people say, it's just going to allow for more pollution, if you just let them pay to pollute. And I just want people to understand clearly that that's not the way it's supposed to work. In every system you do, persons are going to take advantage of it, but that's not the intention for carbon credits. The way carbon credits works is that, for example, if in China they want to do a certain amount of pollution in the air, let's say they pay us $1 billion. I'm just calling crazy numbers. Don't hold me to these numbers. Let's say they pay $1 billion because they want to continue to make iPhones. All right, and I'm not picking on the iPhone, just calling a product. All right, they want to do that. And so they want to continue putting this carbon into the air. They will pay us once they've reached their cap, and they pay us a certain amount of money. Let's say that happens to be $1 billion, right? What happens is you're supposed to use that money for something that benefits the environment and that can sequester carbon so that you neutralize what they're doing by reducing on your end. So, for example, if they give us $1 billion, again, just calling numbers for understanding, we build a solar and hydro power plant or power plants. All right. Now, instead of us burning bunker C and destroying the environment, which we would have been doing anyway, now they gave us renewable. So we're not burning that, we're not putting those carbons into the air. So even though they're still putting it into air, it still reduces or it neutralizes because of us taking that away from our environment. So just so everyone understands, because I heard the chairman of the FNM saying that you're allowing them to pay to do this. No, it's what you do with the funds. You can also use those funds for programs like Mr. Darville is talking about, and you can plant more of these plants, restore our environment. Dorian left us with a lot of work to do, and you can spend money, pay persons to plant these plants and build back up our environment, build back up our forests, and the money goes to that. Also, the money would go to stuff that may not be sequestration, but could help us with the effects. For example, we can build the seawalls that we need. We can build hurricane shelters on every island from the monies that you get from this. But most of the money is supposed to go to things that neutralizes their effort. You want to comment on that?
Yeah, I think you've said it all and comprehensively enough. And I think what we really need to, I wish at the beginning of every parliamentary session, when these people are elected, that they would bring in a number of people who know our environment or know what our people are going through and do like a retreat and listen to it, because a lot of times they go into parliament, they don't know what my friend used to say, diddly squat.
Yeah.
They know nothing about the environment. They don't even know how actually the process of sequestration carbon takes place. They don't even know why, for example, the seagrass, which is different from seaweed. Seaweed is a fungus floating on top of the water. Seagrass is a plant that comes from the bottom and grows up, and they can get like almost 40 feet tall.
Yes.
And they're absolutely amazing. And not only that, but they are the areas where our conchs feed, our lobsters feed, where our turtles go to feed. And so those areas of seagrass in the country are phenomenally important. And I wish we could, we've had other people from other countries documenting what we have. And we don't even know it. And if the government knows it, they haven't been telling us exactly where it is. But we know where it is on Grand Bahama, because we see it all the time. I know where it is between Grand Bahama and Abaco, because I've fished so much between Grand Bahama and Abaco. I know that at the back of my hand. And where the seagrass is. And I know also where the people from Florida come over and steal our seafood all the time. And they literally walk with gear through our seagrass to find the lobsters and groupers, etc. So all of these things, the parliamentarians don't know that. They some of them, I don't want to use the word now, that might be offensive, but daft, probably I can use it.
You can use it on this show.
They're daft. And they have to learn how to listen to people. Just like, for example, right now, we started out with the mangrove project with a lady. I don't want to call her name because she probably doesn't want it, but she adores us now because of our love for the environment, and she does everything. So she's on like an international group of people who are getting funding for us to continue our work in the environment with the mangroves, and the thousands of people, young and old, come. I was out a couple of months ago with a 7-year-old from one of the schools in Grand Bahama. And the little girl, we were trying, because they were small, we wanted them to plant right along the shore. We didn't want them to go out and go into the mud up to their waist. So we were looking for areas where there was good mud, we could plant it. And they got so excited. I mean, a 7-year-old girl, and she said, Uncle Joe, come here, look at this. Look how deep that's an audience. I could plant one here. Oh my God. See, that's how they're excited. And then we had a planting on Saturday, which was yesterday. We had the GGYA people out there, Governor General's thing. And they were there. They had all kind of storm the night before last. And I ran into them coming at the airport, coming to Nassau this afternoon. And they said, oh my God, they've had one storm out there, but they endured it. And the guy came to me and said, Uncle Joe, thank you for getting our kids involved in that. He said they haven't stopped talking about it.
Wow.
So that's what we're doing for our young people. I give God thanks that I grew 14 years in Long Island, because everything came from the earth. We didn't have anything. The little can of tuna, we saved a can to eat out of or something like that. When the boats didn't come, my grandma would say, boy, go out in the mud there and grab a couple runs of shallots so we could have some relish.
In the mud?
In the mud, grub, yeah, we used to grub.
Wow.
No goggles, No, we had no goggles, no fins. We would go out literally in a little flat boat, holding, and we would look for hole in the mud or in the coral head, and we would dive over, no goggles on, put our hand down in there, and hope it was a stone crab or moray eel in there. And then, but usually we wait till the fish goes in. The fish usually they back up in the hole, and then you grab the head and pull out.
Wow.
And no goggles, no snare, nothing.
Wow.
I mean, that's why every child should have a taste of growing up on the island. Way back then.
But we have to go back so we could go forward.
Yeah,
I want to touch back to carbon credits for a minute.
Yeah, sure.
You'd brought up the seagrass, and there was a study done by University of Michigan and others where they said that the carbon credits is worth $156 billion. That's the value. Of course, that's not cash, and etc. But based on storage alone, that's $50 billion, which is a value, a cash value. And that's from the seagrass alone. That's not the mangroves, that's not the forest, etc., etc. That's every year. That has so much potential for the conservation of our Bahamas, which is a treasure to the whole world. What do you think about this conversation? It's like the government doesn't want to talk about it anymore because they feel it's a strong point of us politically.
Yeah.
But I just want the whole Bahamas to know this isn't a political thing for us.
No, it ain't political.
This is the value of what we have.
Yeah.
We are the literal Garden of Eden in this day. There's so much to it. My first book I wrote is called Back to Eden. Back to Eden. Yeah, Back to Eden.
Yeah.
And that's a project we actually want to take the Bahamas back to, once we get in. But if you read the book of Genesis, it tells you of everything that's valuable in the garden. Right? That's the first thing it does. It says, there's rivers and there's onyx and there's gold, and it says, and it's the good gold, so they were telling us the good gold before we even wore gold. But they told you what was there, and the value of what is here in this Bahamas is mind blowing. $156 billion for carbon credits.
I know.
Our country should not be beggars.
No, we shouldn't, and there should be no hunger, no wanting. Like even in Grand Bahama now with the price of food, there was a time when I'll be behind a couple old ladies and they're digging in their purse for pennies. And now they're digging in there for quarters and dimes because there are no more pennies. And it really makes me sad and angry at the same time that these old people who are living alone, they have to go to that extent. And sometimes they have to push back a couple little items on the counter and until we can make it. And the girls, they are very accommodating, and I see that very often. And it's despicable. It should not ever happen to be that way. Every person in this country, if the distribution of wealth was equal, no one would want for anything. But we have the oligarchy and the rich who got everything tied up, and then we have a very small middle class, and then we got the lower class of our people, and they're suffering terribly. And it's despicable, and I say to any government, whether PLP or FNM, there should be no duty, no VAT on basic food items.
Shouldn't be.
That is killing. That is stupid. I almost said a word I shouldn't say. But it is demonic.
Yeah.
Let me say that. It's demonic.
I agree.
And the thing is that you promise these people all this stuff, and they go and vote you back in and all and so forth like that. And they carry on the same regime. Every Bahamian should be in possession of at least $75,000 every year based upon the value of what comes into this country.
Wow.
And we just changed the hands. You had
they're gonna say you're selling dreams because they say I'm selling
dreams.
selling
no dreams. I know selling no dreams. I see it all the day or every day, and I see the potential for my people. And I get angry that people have right now with the little bit of thing that I get. I'm still helping like 3 or 4 families in Grand Bahama right now today. And sometimes I have to go and say, well, I didn't get my stipend yet, so I can't give you. And a lady would call me up and she said, oh, Mr. D, anything? I'm really, really bad off. I don't, it makes me angry and annoyed that with the wealth of this country, that people could be hungry and so forth. And then the disposition with all the murders from the young men because they have nothing to call their own.
I'll get to that in a second, but
please.
I get 70 to 100 calls and texts every day just from people who need a little assistance, need help, and it's if I give each of them $100, that's $10,000 a day, which
No.
You know, some businesses aren't making that, but it's just hearing the cries of people, and it hurts me, and that's what keeps me moving. That's what motivates me to keep going, because I see where we can benefit every single Bahamian. No single mother, no elderly has to suffer in this country, but they want to convince the Bahamian people that I'm selling dreams, and that we must continue to be poor and the politicians stay rich, and they want to keep us down. I've had this habit for the last 10 years. If I see an elderly person in the line, in the grocery line ahead of me or behind me, once I see it looks like they have a need, I will pay for their grocery. I've been doing this for a very long time. You know, a couple of days ago, I was in a food store buying breakfast in one of the food store delis, and this woman, she was asking them, you know, about, okay, how much is that? How much is that? And then she was like, put it, and then she said, no, take some. You know, they weigh the food. She's like, no, take some of that out. And I couldn't believe that.
Day before yesterday, I had the same experience in Solomon's in Freeport. This lady, and so I just said, how much more she has to give you to pay for the couple items she said. She said, oh, Mr. Darville, $3.30. I said, I'll pay for that. You let her have the couple items.
And I did the same thing, and she broke down into tears. You know, because I was just standing there, and she was kind of, you know, Bahamians, we have pride, and she was embarrassed to have to take stuff out and do the kind of stuff, and she broke down into tears. You know, and I was able to buy all of her stuff. You know, and so many Bahamians are going through this. I saw a white Bahamian in front of me in the line. She wasn't really elderly. She was just a little bit older than me. A car didn't go through. And she started to like go into tears. I don't know her story. I don't know why. I can't say because she's white, she has money. And I did the same thing. I don't know her, but whatever she was going through, and she was so thankful. All right, this was in Super Value Cable Beach. You know, people are hurting in this country, and we don't have to, because we have so much. I started to say in the beginning that I'm also an environmentalist, just like you, but I see it, you know, in a little bit different way. You know, I am an environmentalist because I believe that the Bahamas should be for Bahamians, and that when you preserve the environment, you want to preserve an environment for the plants and animals so that they can, you want a safe, sustainable, vibrant environment for our plants and animals. All right. That's why environmentalists do what they do. You know, we should want the same for people in this country. We should want an environment where we can thrive. Just like you want your plants to grow and bloom, we should want our people to grow and bloom, Mr. Darville. It's just like you want your animals to grow and bloom and fulfill their purpose, etc. We should want the same for our people. And this is why I fight. This is why we do what we're doing, because we know that the environment is for us and that we should benefit from what's going on in this environment. And so we have the wrong perspective. You know, we'll say, okay, we need the country to be safe for tourists. We need to control crime so it doesn't affect the tourists. No, we need the country to be safe for us. And if it's safe for us, it's automatically safe for the tourists. But the problem is, if the country could be safe for them and the areas that they go to, and then it won't be safe for us. But then it really won't be safe for them either. It's a catch-22. But we want to benefit from our environment, and that's why I'm fighting for what we're fighting for, you know, for our Bahamians to benefit. I want to segue into talking about aragonite. Calcium, that's the company, Tony Myers and them, where they've been mining aragonite, you know, for some time. The companies have been doing it since the 50s. Yeah, at Ocean Key. Right? Calcium is the company that they formed in the U.S. in order to they mine it here, sell it to persons, to themselves in the U.S., and then they process it and do whatever they feel they need to do. I want to just play this little clip from Calcium so that Bahamians can hear the value of what we have, because we don't know how valuable what we have is. And the purpose of this series is to educate our Bahamian people.
Our
let's
team,
watch this
as
for a
we
second.
said, was able to access a Chaldean meeting. It was a presentation where they were trying to sell our aragonite.
Hi, everyone. This is Allison Myers and my colleague Harold McCurk, and we're from Calcium Minerals and Materials. We're located in Gadsden, Alabama, and we harvest oolitic aragonite from the Bahamas. It's a renewable and sustainable resource that we use in agriculture as a liming agent, but it's much more than that. So we own the leasing rights for the oolitic aragonite for harvesting it in the Bahamas. We have a 500 square mile lease. And what we do is it's just naturally forms on the banks of the Bahamas, and we harvest it and move it up to Gadsden, Alabama, and also throughout the Midwest through both Trent and Lynn as well.
Now, what she said is very interesting because this meeting took place in April 2020. Why is that interesting? Because the media reported that their family no longer has the lease to Ocean Key, but she is claiming that they still have this lease. And so this is very interesting. Maybe Ocean Key, the island itself, is gone, but maybe they still have the rights to mine in the ocean, and maybe they are mining somewhere in the ocean not far from there.
That Ocean Key is our lease area, that 500 square mile lease area. The current reserves are about 1 to 2 billion metric tons, and we've calculated the renewal rate to be about 266,000 to 2.3 million metric tons a year. And over the entire Bahamas banks, that's even larger. You know, we have reserves of 50 to 100 billion metric tons and renewing at 14 to 120 million metric tons a year. So
I don't know if you know what you just heard.
And so basically, ladies and gentlemen, they are saying that that's just a aragonite from the studies that they've done. I know there's studies that the United States has done about our aragonite, etc. I've exposed the Bahamian public to this over and over. They're saying that just the area that they controlled was about 2 billion metric tons. And the Bahama banks, they've identified 50 to 100 billion metric tons of aragonite, which is it's the only renewable natural resource. And they've been exploiting it, and we're not getting anything from that.
You know, it's not only that, but we did a little excursion from Bimini to Ocean Key, and we were able, after they had left, they were no longer excavating in that area. But what happened when the new company came in there to develop it as some cruise
MSC?
We went on shore and they showed us those people when they left. They dumped thousands of tons of machinery and just covered it up.
What?
Yeah. See, that hasn't come out. The government's never made any noise about that. And not only that, but the guy told me that not only did they bury it on the key itself, but they dumped tons of it in the ocean right on top of coral reefs.
What?
And I'm sure, the environmental department in the Bahamas should have known that and find those bastards who did that to our environment. And we're not talking about miles, right? We saw it. We saw the guy was showing us when we pulled by our little boat. We showed when we were digging up with tractors and so forth, all the rotten metals of machinery and all of that. Right? Why do we allow that to happen to our country? That could never happen anywhere else.
No, it couldn't.
And this ownership of land, we got to be conscientious about this much more. But we're going to have the devils loose in this country if we're going to deprive our young people coming up, because they're a little bit more smarter than even the criminals now.
Yeah.
And they're going to have other ways to get what they should get. And when you look at what has happened to our country, for example, between New Providence and Exuma, all of those beautiful keys, none of them belong to Bahamians. You go after Exuma going onto Long Island, and I've seen this, I've passed by there, all those beautiful keys between Exuma and Long Island, foreign owned. You go from New Providence, go into the Berry Islands, all foreign owned. You go into the Abacos, foreign owned, all those keys around except for the huge ones. Why we have sold the birthright of our people. And I don't know if we could ever get it back, but the fact is that we have to somehow maneuver so that the compensation back to the people of Bahamas has to be done to restore whatever we may be able to do to pass on to future generations. We got nothing. If we don't, you're talking about the housing and stuff, you build a couple houses. No. They need land and they need jobs to be able to earn money to build their own home. Yeah. Just like, did I tell you what happens in Long Island? Yeah, I told you that.
Yeah.
That's the way it's got to go.
Yeah.
Every young man at the age 18 and marriageable age, they should own something in this country.
Yes. And they do it in other countries, and we always play a video, about Dubai, and they show the benefits they have, how they give their people, they give them half an acre of land. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have the house, they give you the money to pay for it, to make sure that you are established, because the land is the country.
Oh, yeah.
All right. When you want to identify a country, you don't necessarily identify it by the people. You identify it by the land. You go on a map and you say, this is the country. This is what we are. And if you let others buy all of your land and take all of your land away from you, you don't have a country anymore. And if your people can't afford land anymore, you're shared out. You, in 1977, you made that statement. Ingram did a study and he says, there's about 3.5 to 4 million acres of crown land. That's not a generation property and stuff. I say, if we give every living Bahamian today, if we give every Bahamian adult, an acre of land, that's only about 200,000 acres for each adult. 200 total. That doesn't touch the inventory. Why can't we empower our people? How could that be a problem for them? But of course, it's about keeping us under their foot.
Well, that's it. Barefoot and naked, and then they control you. Mm-hmm. It's really reprehensible, because we could do that, and we got to do it. Otherwise, this country is going to flounder there. And listen, there's so much wealth in this country. For example, because of all of these islands that we have, they're coral formation. Mm-hmm. That's why the aragonite and the sand is so everybody wants it. Mm-hmm. But why aren't we benefiting from it? Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't need to benefit from it because I'm old enough that I ain't going to be around here. But I want my son and my daughter and my grandchildren to be able, I got land in Freeport, I can pass it on to them. But every Bahamian should own something. And even if New Providence is not adequate enough to parcel out land to every Bahamian growing at 18 years or older, then do it in the Family Islands. And the Family Islands are like Exuma, Long Island, Eleuthera especially, and parts of Abaco. They're just dying to be developed to become farming areas. Mm-hmm. And, would be sending away, something? The brain drain of this country is absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. I would say at the present time, more than 50% of our university graduates do not come back to this country.
I agree.
They are, and not only that, but the countries like the United States and others, they're stealing even our professionals out of the country. Mm-hmm. Like our nurses, our teachers. I mean, they're all over the United States because they do not get paid sufficient here. Mm-hmm. So they're enticed to go. I was in Florida recently, and just happened to go by one school. And one of the teachers recognized me. Oh, you, Joe Darville, used to be a principal. I said, yeah. Well, how you know me? Because I was there in the Bahamas, so I was a teacher there. And they're teaching in Florida now. So they're stealing because, see, the Bahamian people are trained as teachers. They are so acute and so, I would say, outstanding, because they feel that they have had a privilege to be educated at that level. Mm-hmm. And so they're all in New York, Toronto, even in someplace way out west in California. Mm-hmm. I ran into a couple, I was at some convention or something in Florida year before that. And in that group of people who were there were 5 people who used to be teachers in the Bahamas. Right. And now they're in all over the United States. So we got to treat our professionals properly.
I want to play a quick clip before we go, and then we're going to open the phone lines. But I want to play a quick clip from a man who, was 2 men who were saying one thing before the government changed, and now we can't hear from them on these things that they were talking about. But listen, it is very interesting.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, breaking news, you are rich. That's the headline. If you are a Bahamian, you are rich. And the other headline is you've had someone stealing from you since you've been alive. You've had somebody stealing your wealth, stealing your country's resources, and trying to steal your future. The good news is we are now on to the trick. And so our job is to make sure that we get it back to you. That's what tonight is about, educating you so you are aware of what's been happening. And then you can decide whether you want them to get the child Sanders cane or you want them to go to jail. Because this is nothing short of criminal, that our country has been doing this for years, and our people are still suffering, and we are not doing anything. See, in case you don't understand, here's my issue. Here's my issue. The Bahamas, God placed this here. God placed this archipelago of islands here. Strategically, right where it is in the world, because he knew that it would be a literal paradise. He also knew that he would equip in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas everything this nation would need, that its people would be wealthy and not have to depend on anybody for anything. That's why he put fish in the ocean, natural resources in the earth, so that we can be able to have access to our own wealth and not depend on people to give us handouts. That's what the good Lord did for you. That's why I always tell people, if you are part of the Bahamas, you are designed by God to be blessed. He blessed you so much to give you a country like this that is so rich. The world knows the riches of the Bahamas. So if you're a Bahamian, your hat's off to you. You are the apple of God's eye. The problem is, we've not been living like that. The problem is God-given kingdom authority. Why? Because we thought only pirates were stealing from us. We thought only the British were stealing from us, and didn't recognize the people who were stealing from us were right among us. Because they recognized the wealth when they got into powers of governance. They recognized what this country had access to, and they said, shh, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. We can't let this get out. We can't let this get out. We can't let people know about this. We got to keep this. Got to keep this. Got to keep this. Got to protect this. And so foreigners just come in and say, oh yeah, we wear what you have. We want to be able to manufacture what you have, and we'll make sure you're taken care of. And so they've made their companies multi-billion-dollar companies. It's on the stock exchange. You can see it. Made their companies rich off the Bahamas. Do you think that just making their companies rich off the Bahamas and somebody who's allowing them to do it has not been able to say, okay, we got you, we got you. Now I'm starting to wonder where all of this wealth coming from that you can't trace back to certain people over the years of power. Now you wonder why you look and you check people's bank accounts. You say, oh, okay, well, you can't see no foreign deal, no fixed deal here. But what's happening? Oh, the money perhaps are in offshore banks. And they're getting funds, perhaps, to allow a practice that for years have raped the Bahamian people, while the people suffer, while people die because they can't afford health care, while people die because they have no food to eat, while people die because their electricity is getting turned off all the time, while people are dying because they cannot afford to live in this Bahamas, when all around us is wealth. Vaughn Miller.
Let me substantiate a lot of what you just said. In 1967, January 10th, historic day, black majority rule. Progressive Liberal Party won the government. Shortly thereafter.
But it was after the Progressive Liberal Party came to power in 1967 the then premier, the first black premier of the Bahamas, the Prime Minister, the late Lyndon Oscar Pindling, quoted that Aragonite would be the savior of the Bahamian economy. This was pre-independence. This was shortly after we won majority rule. I spoke to a member of the team that traveled to Ocean Key during this time, and he informed me that they used the term for Aragonite Bahamian gold. And so the expectations were extremely high in terms of how Bahamians would benefit from the production of Aragonite. However, that never happened. Why? All of our minds can go all over the place in terms of trying to figure out why. All of us have our own beliefs as to why.
And so we decided to put on our Sherlock Holmes hat and go digging for the truth. And what we found really disturbed us.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was two gentlemen who, before the election, were talking about, Bahamian people. I mean, Clint Watson was at the point where he's saying that people should be arrested for how they've robbed us. Persons involved in mining approached me and gave me the documents that made this whole movement famous. And they said, one of them said they feel guilty for how much money they made from what belongs to the Bahamian people. And that's a serious statement. Mr. Darville, I understand our grandparents and parents didn't know what was going on. We saw it. Everyone in Grandmama saw the mining going on. We thought it was dirt. Like, why are these people digging up all this dirt? We didn't know the value of what we had. And maybe that's why we were abused. How do you feel about this whole thing?
Well, I think it's a despicable situation. And actually, I think I mentioned to you that I took a number of parliamentarians to Marietta property, where they have about 5 different grades of aragonite, mining aggregate, they call it, that they're shipped out. And Florida is dying to get it because they no longer permitted to go into the Everglades, because that area is now off limits because they have to reserve that. So they're getting hundreds of thousands of tons a day out of Grand Bahama, and I never see it on the budget line and think, where's the money? Why don't we get it? I know the Port Authority, maybe they have a certain control over it, but the fact is that that's our land, whether or not it's directed by the Port Authority or not. And the fact is that the parliamentarians, and I don't want to call their names, but there were 4 of them, and one is no longer parliamentarian. She didn't run in last election. But they were all there with me, and I showed them all of the bells, and they were just in awe. They didn't know all of that stuff was going, and now it's even implemented even greater now with the exportation of it. And at one particular point, you remember we fought against them going across the road to go into 8 Mile Rock, into the wetlands, because they wanted to do that. And we fought the Minister of the Environment back then. Yeah, so we stopped them. But what they did, now they move more inland, which has become a catastrophe for Grand Bahama, Pindus Point, Lewis, Yapuntus, and so on, because you could sail a boat in there 3 or 4 feet in the hurricane that came there about 6 years ago. And it's going to get worse now because they've gone even closer to the power company and that whole area. And the fact is they were only allowed initially, according to what I was told, to go down to about 60 feet. And now they're going down way beyond 60 feet. And they said the deeper they go, the better that stuff is, because this is all for coral formation. This is gold. And now because they want to expand the harbor, and they're going to have a cruise a docking there for the hugest cruise ships in the world. They now got to dig deeper, and then they are now running a pipe from it, and they're about already miles and miles across the road, about 40, 20 feet high, all the aggregate. That's all going to be sold out of this country. And why don't I know? Why don't I get a couple cents from it?
And if you
as a Bahamian. And the one who's fought for that area, the fact that we preserved. Oh, by the way, they were supposed to go to what do you call it? Crooked Island.
Mm-hmm.
They were called Crooked Island. Since we started from going across the road in 8 Mile Rock to destroy the wetlands. But they determined that that machine that they have, it uses so much power. So Grand Bahama Power Company is getting all of the revenue from this machine that is eating up thousands of kilowatts of power every day. And they said that instead of going there, they decided to go deeper and to come further inland. I mean, this type of catastrophe that is being allowed to happen in our country. In fact, and the parliamentarians do know it, because these guys who were there, one was, two were opposition, two were members of the government, the PLP, and they had no idea that all these grades of aggregate was going out of the country.
Wow. If you're gonna destroy my land, at least I should benefit from it.
I know. I want to get $1,000 a year from it that I could feed people who are starving.
Yeah.
I don't need it because I know how to farm. I know I grow my potatoes. I grow my breadfruit. I grow my bananas. I can do that because I grew up on the island. I know how to survive.
Yeah. The union leaders they had done a study of the Aragonite, and they had put a letter together and gave it to Perry Christie, and it became a part of Perry's platform, and that's why he formed the Sovereign Wealth Fund. And it was about the Aragonite, saying that every household could get, based on the research, $100,000 per household from the Aragonite. And now that we're saying the same thing, well, similar, they're saying that we're selling dreams.
Dreams. That's a fact.
It is a fact. And, because we're saying that based on our studies, we can get more, because what I did was I did proper investigation, and I saw where these persons were making more money than they said they were making, or that they were reporting, because they were selling themselves in the U.S., to make it look like they weren't making a big profit, and then they were selling it further. And that's why I came to the conclusion of this $100,000 per Bahamian adult. And they try to attack us and make it sound like we put that forward for political purposes and we just want to bamboozle the people. But that was from the Progressive Liberal Party. It was them who brought that up, and they also brought up that they would give everyone free electricity. This was their plan. And when we said that, listen, we're going to deliver this, they started to say, oh, no, they're selling dreams. But I just want to say this to you, Mr. Darville, and to all of the people of your generation, that my generation is going to pick up the baton.
I hope so, because I am so annoyed and peeved that all of this is happening in the country. And the fact is that there should be no poverty in this nation. Right now, we know, and even the Minister of Foreign Affairs even admitted himself the other day that 45% of our people are living at or below poverty level. That is reprehensible. That is stupid to happen in this country. You know what? And the foreigners seeing us like we're, I don't want to use the word, on a plantation. They still think we're on a plantation. And then our oligarchy here have taken a hold of that mentality, and they treat our people just the same. So big time preparing for election or something, to be all around, giving this out and giving this up, giving beer and all this stuff. And then afterwards, nothing.
Wow.
Nothing. Why can't my people learn?
Wow.
That's why I have never been affiliated to any political party.
Wow.
Never, ever. I voted both, depending on who was running in my constituency, because I don't want to be seduced by this whole thing and just leave the people high and dry after they get into Parliament. I think Parliament today is the most stagnant, almost demonic machinery in the country, because they are not attuned to the people.
Yeah.
And then maybe one or two here and there, and sometimes depending on what good they can get out of it. But they don't know the people. They don't know the people. They don't know what people go through. I mean, the other day, one of the politicians from Grand Bahama, I had to call him up and I said, please, there are two families that I can't help any longer. Try and see if you could get something, because one of them, they need something to put on her roof. Her roof is still leaking, and from the storms that we had from Dorian. You think they would walk around in their constituency and check with the people and see how we can help them. Sometimes they do these little things about breakfast and lunch and so forth. I mean,
Wow.
That's a token of grace.
I started to say, we're going to take it to the baton. And that vision you had in 1977, where you said every Bahamian should get their acre of crown land. We're going to make sure that happens. If Bahamians vote for it, it will happen. Bahamians will benefit from our aragonite, our limestone, and natural resources, like you've been talking about. Bahamians are going to benefit from our carbon credits. They are using the ignorance of the Bahamian people because they don't really understand how this thing works. They're using that to cause people to think that it's not as good as he is saying. Just, let us pay the country's bills with it, but you can't get anything from this. But we're going to make sure that every Bahamian can benefit in every way. We're going to change the system.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how long I'm going to live being 82 right now.
You will see the new Bahamas.
I would love to see that.
You will see the new Bahamas. The reason we're going to give everyone an acre of land is so that we could continue to own this land as Bahamians. That's why we should give this land to Bahamians. So no one can come and take this from us.
I shouldn't say prophesy, but maybe that's not a prophecy. But in 1977, when I wrote that thing and I sent it directly to, I think it was Prime Minister Pindling then, someone anyway. We were in the height of the drug addiction.
Yeah.
And it was, people were falling out in Grand Bahama. Crack cocaine was manufactured at Syntex. Right.
What?
Before. Yeah. The guy, what's his name, that sumped out on cocaine? Yeah, right in there. And I got it directly from two people who, due to addiction, they're wandering the streets now. One was extremely intelligent. He actually worked in the lab, and they produced crack cocaine at Syntex. Now, why weren't our authorities aware of that? Not only that, but Syntex was the most demonic system in the Bahamas. Let me tell you why. On one occasion, when the schools were inundated with the pollution, and all of the people were called from Syntex, one of the lab technicians there took me aside. He said, Mr. Darville, he said, you don't think what you're smelling now is going to kill you? He said, what you can't even smell. He said that stuff, and the fact is, when I relocated my school, I refused to get any help from Syntex. They wanted to give me some material for the lab. And the fact is, because they blame me for their having to shut down their plant. I used to demonstrate as a sole person in front of them because I didn't take my students there. But finally, the students and the teachers came because, they were falling out on all of this stuff. And then about 6 months after Syntex concluded their operation in there, one of the guys who went to the company and dug a hole, he said, Mr. D, I got to confess this to someone. I confess it to you. He said, I buried tons of dangerous chemicals on the site of Syntex and covered it up. Because, they're supposed to take all of these, just like the company that's closing in Freeport now.
Yes, Pharmachem.
They were supposed to take all of these out of the country because we do not have the containment to do that. And one other thing I'm going to say to you before I conclude tonight. When Edward St. George and St. Jack, they built a beautiful gym at 8 Mile Rock. When they invited me as a principal to the opening of the gym, I went in there and they seated me right next to Edward St. George. So he and I had a good conversation. And I said to him, Edward, facilities like this, you should do more. And not just the building, the 2 schools that been named after you and Sir Jack. I said, you should do more for the community before you die. And I said, you got to use some of all this money you got. Oh, Joe, don't worry about that. I could carry it with me, I know it. 3 months later, he was dead, and they didn't take a dime with him.
Wow.
But at that particular thing, when we were seating there, it was providential that we sat together. They put us together. Because he and I became close friends, after he and I almost came to fist fight over kids passing out at the primary school. And when he went to the hospital to see them, he said, Joe, I could only tell you this and get it with my conscience. He said, we signed 14 wells in Pinners Point, Lewishard, Hunters, Hawksville, and the new subdivision. He said, everyone came saturated with oil. He said, there are millions of barrels of oil under the ground.
What?
He said, if there's an explosion, the whole end of Grand Bahama is going to go.
Wow.
That's what he told me sitting right in the gym at 8 Mile Rock. And it's almost like he had to get it off his conscience because he know how I fought for that whole community to get those schools relocated out of there before so many young people died of cancer.
Wow. That's wow. We gotta get this word out. We need change in this country. We need it desperately. I'm gonna open the phone lines as I continue this conversation. We got about 18 minutes left. I'm gonna open the phone lines for you now. It's 803-5995 is the number. 803-5995. It's on your screen. Colin, what do you think about the thefts that we said today? Do you have any questions for Mr. Darville as a professional, respected environmentalist? There was an environmentalist, a young fella, who was on, someone was interviewing him, and he said, we can't benefit from our natural resources. That's basically what he was saying, and I thought it was so, ridiculous that we try to hold ourselves down and we let, politicians seem to be paying persons now to convince the public that we're selling dreams, and that there should be, no benefits for us as a people, and that's shocking. So 803-5995 is the number. You can call in now if you have any questions for Mr. Darville, or if you have any questions for me. Is there anything that you don't understand? Is there something I said or he said that you don't agree with? We welcome anyone who doesn't agree. We want to hear from you even more than the people we agree with. So let's go to the phone lines. Good afternoon. You're live.
Hey, good afternoon. How you doing?
Awesome, man.
All right, that's great. That last statement, what he said, that just blew my mind.
Me too.
About the oil being in the ground. I don't think people even had a chance to think about how serious that is, how dangerous that is.
Wow.
That should not be a discussion that just go under the rug at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. And Lincoln, I pray that you push and really, really push out this information that you're getting, because we have a leader that throws things against the wall and nothing is sticking, and he's hoping something sticks. And it's the same thing like with the fishing. Okay, that didn't work, so let's pull it back. Apparently, they didn't pull it back. Same thing with hiding the counts of the murder. That's like, I give you a job to clean out my property because, I'm having kids come over. Your job is to kill all the snakes. But you can't kill the snakes in the time frame that I need them for. So what you tell me is, I already killed them. So now I send them out, and eventually it's going to backfire. Same thing with the murders and different things happening. We don't have a good leader that's following protocol to say, let me talk to the Bahamian people, let me find out. They just doing all these things themselves, and we paying for the consequences at the end of the day, and I pray things change. I truly pray things change.
We're not just going to sit down and pray. We're going to continue to fight and do what we have to do to make this happen. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, brother.
The solution, the biggest solution to crime is to let, Bahamians benefit from their natural resources. If Bahamians benefit, if you are benefiting every year from what your country is making, one, you're going to feel a part of this country. What Mr. Darville said in 1977 was that if you feel that you have a piece of the rock, you're going to love this rock more. Yeah. And a lot of people say, it's mostly white people that care about the environment and that kind of stuff. Maybe it's because they own a piece of the rock. Maybe it's because they love this because it's theirs. And maybe a lot of the other people don't feel a part of this because it's not theirs. One thing a lot of big companies did after Sam Walton did it first from Walmart, to stop theft, because it's very difficult with that kind of retail store to reduce theft and cause, people to want to keep the bathroom clean and keep the store clean. He actually allowed his staff to buy shares in Walmart, and he gave them shares on a yearly basis as a benefit. After he did that and they felt a part of the company, if a staff member saw another staff member stealing, They would be the ones to stop them and tell you can't do this, you can't be slacking off, because they felt a part of the company now. And we need to make sure that Bahamians feel a part of this. The main reason, I saw the phone ring and I think we missed, you can call back. The main reason that we want all Bahamians to benefit from a piece of this pie is because we want the ideas of this country to come from the people, not from the politician. God put ideas in each one of us, and they lock down the system so that we can't afford to live our dreams, to do that thing that we have a talent for. Look at how many people out there, if you taste their food, it is the most amazing food. If you taste their pastries, it's the most amazing pastries. They don't have the money to open a bakery. They don't have the money to really open a restaurant. They can't live their dreams. But if they are benefiting, them and their family can do things. They can open a restaurant here. They can expand to other countries. They can do whatever we need. All of the ideas of the people need to come from the people and not the politicians. And that's why our country is suffering. We always ask the politician, what are you going to do for the community? What ideas you have for the community? It's not for us to get ideas from them. The ideas should come from us, and they should give us an environment that will aid us in bringing these ideas to fruition. Right now, everyone is complaining about the business licensing process. People are pulling their hairs out. They have this new system that doesn't work, and it's crazy. And when you get past this, then they call you for that, and it just doesn't work. And it feels intentional that they don't want us to benefit from what is ours. Phone lines, 803-5995 is the number. Y'all call us in, talk to us, man. 803-5995 is the number. Make sure I didn't miss it. Put it on silent when I lost a call. 803-5995 is the number. We, Mr. Darville, we have a vision for this country that's going to both preserve our environment and exploit it. You know, I sat down when we were putting Vision 2025 together. I sat down with Prescott Smith, and I asked him to identify, he's a former Defense Force officer, and he's been dealing with the environment for a long time in the flats, areas of the Bahamas where we can look at that. If we take the sand that is piling up there, because the sand is growing up out of the water, because we have so much of it. And can we identify these areas where it won't affect the plant life, the sea life, etc., and mine there? Because now they have the ships that could just suck it up into the hull of the ship. And we can benefit by exporting these stuff to Singapore and the other 51 countries that just need sand to expand their land. For example, China built just in a few years 4,000 square miles of land they added to their ocean area just because they needed more space. Singapore did similar, and that's basically Andros that they built. All right. Singapore did the same thing, and there's a lot of other countries that are doing that. They need sand. They can't use the desert sand to do it. It doesn't work. And why don't we get paid for that? Why can't we do that? I want to talk to you about another thing, and it is relevant to Andros and Grand Bahama also. The land is full of treasure. I've spoken to persons who have had treasure license before. When I say the land, I mean the land under the sea. It's full of treasure. But let me take this call and we'll get to that. Good afternoon, you're live.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Bain. Mr. Joe Darville.
Hello.
How you doing? Philippa Lady Rufford here. Long time no see. You're looking great.
Oh, wow. I haven't heard from you for a long time.
I've been kind of quiet. They kind of knocked out my microphone, but I'm just as much trouble quietly.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to ask you about the Dodge Corporation. Is it still functioning in that city?
The which corporation?
Which corporation?
Dodge Corporation.
Dodge?
That styrofoam plate and cup that we have become so accustomed to is absolutely poisonous. Are they still functioning?
You mean in Grand Bahama?
In Grand Bahama, yeah.
Not to my knowledge. I'm not even aware of such.
Okay. And you mentioned a lot of oil being trapped underground. Are you talking about a facility up east where all those tanks blew?
Oh, no. This is, well, I'm sure there's oil under the ground there, but mostly on the ground because it was spread out over that whole area, probably about but 2 miles going to the north, and then about a mile, a little less than a mile on the front. But that will gradually go into the ground and into the water table. But I'm talking about the operation at the refinery, Buckeye, that when they used to do refining of the oil, and then you had the Grand Bahama Power Company there as well, and also the chemical company, Syntex, and so on. So this has to do with the oil that would have come from the oil refinery, Waco, and now Buckeye. So this is what's under the ground, not out east. Out east is a different story altogether.
That's another serious problem. I want to thank you for your many years of advocacy. You saved the lives of many children when you were principal at Catholic High, and you made them remove that school to another part of town.
Well, I told Sir Jack and Edward that I would not rest my laurels until all the schools were out of that area, and they did. As soon as Catholic High was out of there, then they started to move all the schools out of the area. Oxford Primary, Oxford High, and the primary school in that
before
area.
you step out, I hear you talking, that you have a lot of time in. Before you leave, you need to leave a blueprint of what the industrial side of that city should be made to be regulated by, so the future generations won't ingest all the toxins that we did. And thank you so much for your service, Brother Joe Darville. You did well. Thank you.
Thank you, beloved, and have a pleasant evening.
You too.
Thank you for your call. I appreciate that. That's Philippa Lady Russell. We were talking about the treasure. That there's a lot of treasure in our seas. Spain has said, and there's articles all over the place in the media, internationally, not in the Bahamas, where they have found 5,000 sites where their ships are sunken, and they want to come and get their ships. Each of them worth over $1 billion each. That's $5 trillion.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Sorry. There's a call. Let's take the call. Good afternoon. You're live.
Good night, Mr. Bain. Good night, Mr. Darville.
Good night.
Hello. Good evening.
Mr. Darville, that lady was talking about polymers. That's what she was talking about when she's talking about the plastic company.
Sorry, say that again.
He thinks she was talking about polymers, the plastic company.
Polymers. That company. That's another story. Leave that for now. I'm still trying to get my head around that situation. Polymers. Now I know. I thought she was talking about one company out there in the main industrial area.
Right. Well, I want y'all to continue on doing a good job, and Mr. Bain, continue on. Let's fight, and we're going to fight this to the end.
Yes, we will.
We have to,
right.
Because we deserve to love our people, and we cannot leave it in the hands of politicians. They will not do it, and they kind of disallow us from doing it, and we have to supersede their narrow-mindedness, because some are very narrow-minded and they cannot comprehend. For example, why isn't it yet that we have a clarification on carbon credits and what we're getting from the seagrass, what we're getting from sequestration of carbon? We walk in every day, walking it up to my waist, and I know what it is, and I know how it is done, and we need to teach all of our people about this. I am very happy because we're getting funding now gradually coming in to continue our restoration of the mangroves. And so this is getting hundreds and hundreds of young people and older people in this whole project of restoration of our mangroves. Because if we could save the mangroves, even the coral reefs are dying rapidly because of the heating of the ocean and so forth. And there's a great job being done by Coral Reef in Grand Bahama now in restoring them, adjusting the corals to hotter temperature of the ocean and planting them back on the dying reefs. And now we're working with the mangroves, and we're going to spread it out through other islands too. Exuma, Cat Island, and so on. We're taking our projects there as well. So even where they do not have mangroves right now, we will probably have them to grow mangroves so that we could continue to have the primary nursery for all the fish that we eat.
Wow.
They are born there. They're given birth there. There's a conch, lobster, crawfish, sharks, etc. They all come there to give birth to the young or to lay their eggs. And then when the fish are big enough and they can fight the predators, then they go out to the coral reefs. So the coral reefs is the second nursery, but the mangroves are the primary nursery for all the fish that we eat. And I know them because we live right on the coast in Long Island, and we go right out anytime with the line and catch a gray snapper, a mangrove snapper we call it, and have it for breakfast.
Are our environmental laws sufficient? Or is the issue enforcement?
Is enforcement. And one of the things that I find treacherous is how the invasion of people from Florida come over and devastate our seafood. They walk this bottom of our ocean with tanks, which we are not allowed to use when we catch lobsters or fish. But they come over right off West End, right off even New Providence. But mostly on those islands, I hardly ever see what do you call it, the people who are out there monitoring, the defense force. I don't see any of them around anymore in Grand Bahama. And they have to realize this is where the guns come in, this is where the contraband come in the canal system, both on Grand Bahama and Nassau. This thing goes with sense, you know. You got to have your head around the foolishness that's going on in this country and not really finding out where it's happened. I don't see no defense force, and you can bet the people say there's more beer brought in the Bahamas illegally than what comes to the regular thing for sale.
That is true. Yeah, call just now. We think we lost them, or are they still there? Good afternoon, you're live.
Good evening, Mr. Bean, Mr. Darville.
Hello.
How y'all doing?
Awesome.
Good, man.
I had a question. How is it possible that Statoil spilled all that oil? They have insurance against this, but the Bahamas hasn't received any money. I don't know anyone down there who's received any money. Did the government receive money and didn't tell us? I mean, what? Because I know they have insurance for it, because I used to work down there. So I know of insurance against stuff like that. So how is it possible that we haven't received any funds for this?
I don't know. I think we have to call upon the government, the prime minister, whomever. It is really this disgusting mystery. It's like a mystery cloaked in an enigma. That so much damage was done to our environment, the pine forest, the wetlands in that area, and the water is still saturated with oil. We go there and you can touch when the tide is low. You can see it lift up a piece of mud, and the oil is still under the piece of mud. And then when the water comes up, when it rains, it's floating on top like a sheen. So it is still devastating that environment. And the birds have not come back yet. And that's a sign, a good sign, that the environment has not been cleaned up properly. But we get no idea as what the compensation was to the people of the Bahamas. And you know, Equinor, what do you call it, the country? Norway. You know, they have a national fund for every individual. That's $1 million. No,
1.4 trillion is the total.
1.4 trillion in total.
Which makes all of their citizens a millionaire.
And now we know that they didn't want to continue to operate there because of many reasons. And we know nothing about the compensation of the people. And it was total negligence that happened by Norway, because the day after it happened, I ran into one of the workers, and you know what he said to me? He said, Mr. Darville, let me tell you something. He said, the guy who came down from Norway to put those caps on those tanks, he said, oh, they're putting it that we could stand 140 knots. And he said, when I told him, what was 145? He said, oh, we know what we're doing. And when the expert came to help with the cleanup, I asked him about that. And he said, yeah, exactly. He said, 140 knots would have taken those caps off. And fortunately, or quote unquote, the oil went into the forest and not into the ocean. Because if it had happened during the tornadic action, it would have swept all of that oil onto our ocean. We've had total devastation of our marine environment on Grand Bahama. So, you know, these things, you got to have people with sense and common sense and love for the people and our country to be able to manipulate around all this manipulation of the foreigners come in here and do whatever they want and leave a total mess. Now the company has been sold And then I see a guy who's working up there, and he said there's so much that they have to do that they left with negligence that they don't even know if they could continue to do the work for refurbishing that whole plant. So it's a total mess, total mess. And we don't hear diddly squat, they all say in the family house from the government. And I cry shame on that. I don't care who is the government, because if it was under the F&M and we couldn't get answers, and it's down to the PLP now, we still ain't getting no answers.
Yeah.
Well, as far as the oil in the ground up by Buckeye, used to be Boko, the government has known about that for years. I mean, they've done surveys and had specialists go and they check, and they know it's there. They just don't do nothing about it.
Yeah, that's it. They know it. They know it. And from all the people who have died of cancer, they know what it's costed. There's some people, we do water sampling under Waterkeepers Bahamas. We do well water in that area, and we do ocean water. All the beaches in Nassau, we do the big major beaches in Grand Bahama and Bimini. And in that area with the freshwater, with the so-called freshwater lands in the wells, it always comes up polluted with oil. Wow. Some people have said, they bring up water sometime, we light a match, it'll burn. Wow. So that's the type of situation that our people are enduring, and we've been advocating from way, way back to relocate all of those people out of there, give them property outside of the industrial area, and so that this dismal thing doesn't continue for people dying of cancer. Dying of cancer. And I am one, I don't even know why I'm still living.
Wow.
Because they said that mine was cost. He asked me if I smoked all my life. I said, no, I never smoked. He said, well, did you work in an industrial area? I said, no, but I worked near one. He said, because that cancer in your bladder is only caused by either smoking a lifetime or by industrial pollution.
Wow.
So God
my God. Thanks for your call, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
All right. I saw some other calls trying to come in, but we got to end there. We've done our 2 hours. We appreciate you for coming in today. And I'm going to tell you that we're going to continue this conversation. All right. We're trying to get it. I'll take one more. Good afternoon. You're live.
Hello?
Hello. You're the last caller.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to comment on it seems like nobody is really focusing too heavily on that statement made by Mr. Darville relating to the crack cocaine being made here in the Bahamas. I mean, that is a serious thing. Yeah. I mean, the environmental thing is horrible enough, but if the government had some knowledge of it, there's no way that they didn't have some knowledge of that. I wonder if Bahamians are going to brush over that, or they're going to finally wake up and realize these people don't care about us. And that's not a joke. And that's not a slogan. That's a serious thing.
Yeah.
I have a friend in Grand Bahama right now who walks the street. Brilliant, brilliant man. And he gave me all of that information. He came addicted to it. He was even a reader in the church. And now he walks the street with his brain. Still, I think, incredible, because he's still so intelligent. He still wants to write letters to the paper. But he was one who worked in the lab at Syntax, created crack cocaine that they shared among themselves. And many of them, and they don't put that out there, many people went blind. Also, one in particular, a very important guy in Grand Bahama, went blind from the use of cocaine at Syntax. That was produced there in the lab. Crack cocaine.
Wow. You saying that without stammering?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. Thanks for your call, caller.
That's enough for any opposition to campaign on. That's what I meant to say.
Thank you. And so a lot have been said in this live, and you can screenshot the parts that you want and send them out, and make sure you get them out there to your family and friends. But we are preparing now for New Bahamas, and that's why we're starting the conversations. There's a PR tactic to go out there and just go in the WhatsApp groups and just spread dirt and have arguments, and so that we're not having the real conversations anymore. we are going to be having the real conversations for the next few months about what's really going on in this country. We've had enough of these same people benefiting but not wanting us to get ours. And so we are going to get our acre of crown land. We are going to benefit from our carbon credits, which is real. We are going to benefit from our natural resources, and we can mine our natural resources and still be environmentally friendly. You can farm chickens that you eat, and then you can farm chickens that are used to raise more chickens. You just have to determine how you do what you do and just do it responsibly. Designate certain areas and say this area is for mining, this area is to be reserved for all of our future generations. And so we can do it differently. And so thank you all for tuning in. We're going to continue this conversation next week at 5 p.m. Make sure you are here. Bring your family and friends, and let's change the conversation. Let's move the conversation to the new Bahamas and the next Bahamas. God bless all of you. You have any last words you want to give to Bahamian people?
Well, just to say that, I'm in love with Mother Earth. She cares for us, takes care of us. And I'm just glad that I spent the first 14 years of my life on Long Island, where I depended solely on everything that she was able to give me to eat and to drink. And I just love her, and I wish we could all love her, because she is our country with 100,000 square miles of water and 62,000 square miles of land. It is a gift beyond imagination from the divine. And we need to have it restored for the full beneficial of all Bahamians. All Bahamians. God bless Bahamaland. I love you all.
Amen. God bless you. I want to leave you with this again. This is the people of Dubai and what they did for their people. And some people say, they had oil money. Well, we got sand, which is the most valuable resource in the world right now. The world is running out of sand. They use sand for almost everything. The world needs it. You cannot live without it. We have something even more valuable than they do. But it's just that, yeah, and cleaner, yeah, he says and cleaner. And but the problem is we have leaders that want to keep you down. Ladies and gentlemen, the fight continues. Remember, convention is on April 13th. Make sure all of you are there. If you're a delegate, make sure that you're a paid up delegate so we can start this movement. We are getting ready to take this country back. We can't depend on the politicians to do what's right. We got to take this back. So see y'all next time.
This may be the best citizenship in the world, and they all have it. Because of this card, they get free land, free education, free weddings, free hospitals, and even a free funeral. It's the citizenship of a country in the Middle East called the United Arab Emirates. This is what life is like for citizens from the Emirate of Dubai. And because the city is so generous, they get the craziest benefits I have ever seen. Are you ready for this? When you are born, your parents pay nothing. Your delivery and checkups for the next 9 months are all free. Then you grow up and you go to school. Local school in Dubai is free! And so are universities, because Dubai will pay for you to get a degree.
I studied at Zayed University and New York University, both for free.
Who's gonna pay for that?
The government.
Then you get married. If you can't afford the wedding, you get $20,000 to throw a wedding. And after marriage, every local Dubai family gets this: free land. Did you get free land?
Yes.
Did you get free land?
Yes.
Did you get free land?
Sure, yes.
And if you cannot afford the home, then you get a grant to build it for free.
I also can't afford building a house. I can get a 0 interest loan on housing.
Zero?
Zero.
If you need to go to the hospitals are free. And if you need surgery that's not available here, they will fly you to another country to get treatment for free. When you become a senior citizen, you get discounts, many discounts. And if you live alone and can't afford it, Dubai will even send a caretaker to look after you for free. And when you die, well, in Dubai, that's also free. Your funeral will be taken care of, and Dubai will build a full tent with air conditioning within 5 hours of your death next to your home so your friends can come and say goodbye to you. The point of government is to take care of people. And in Dubai, they take it to the extreme. Imagine if every city, every state, every government in the world did this. We would have a much happier world.